All right, what up, guys? Randumpz here, and let's talk about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6, the series finale of Game of Thrones. So the first thing I want to say is, honestly, yo, talk about a fucking bullshit episode, all right? So if you haven't seen the episode, obviously, spoiler alert, I don't even know why the fuck you're watching this video if you haven't seen the episode, all right? But if you are watching this, then get ready for spoilers. So basically, the episode starts off with Tyrion and Jon Snow walking through King's Landing. Everything's been destroyed, and they're both really witnessing the what Daenerys has really done, right? She's killed tons of people, children, adults, men, women, etc. And then, it goes on to basically, Tyrion being imprisoned for betraying Daenerys because he released his brother. Jon Snow has a conversation with Tyrion in which Tyrion encourages him to kill Daenerys. Jon Snow kills Daenerys. Jon Snow gets imprisoned. And then at some fucking point in the episode, they decide, hey, what would be an awesome fucking idea? Let's get Bran, the crippled guy, to be king. So there's honestly so much to unpack with this episode, so let's just go over it first. Number one, the very first thing I looked at, as soon as I clicked on this episode, the very first thing I looked at was the time. How long is this episode? And I saw that it's roughly an hour and 19, an hour and 20 minutes long. So right off the bat, I knew that given that this is the last episode of the series, and given that so much has just happened, and given that so much needs to happen in order to really conclude the series, that they're gonna rush this episode like crazy. I mean, an hour and 20 minutes roughly for an episode for a series finale where the last episode was Daenerys destroying all of King's Landing. Like, Daenerys is still alive, Jon is still alive. Like, you know the episode is gonna be rushed like crazy. So anyways, it is rushed, right? And basically what happens is Jon Snow kills Daenerys. And what really pissed me off about this episode, in all honesty, is that it didn't make any fucking sense. It didn't make any sense because check this out. Like, number one, after Jon Snow kills Daenerys, he's like in prison. What we know about Grey Worm, right, is that he is so fiercely loyal to Daenerys that if he honestly thought, and which he did at the ending of the episode, Grey Worm said it himself, Jon Snow killed Queen Daenerys. He was aware of that. If Grey Worm, what we know about him, if Grey Worm honestly thought that Jon Snow killed Daenerys, given how loyal he was to her, he would not have put him in prison. He would not have, quote-unquote, waited for trial. No, he would have fucking killed Jon Snow for it. It would have been immediate retribution. There would be no trial. Like, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. Why would Grey Worm, of all fucking people, knowing that Jon Snow killed Daenerys, why would Grey Worm be like, oh, you know what, it's okay, we're gonna keep you for trial? No, everything we know about Grey Worm tells us that he should have killed Jon Snow. So just another character development tossed out the corner. And I mean, as far as Daenerys goes, look, what happened last episode, regardless of what you think of episode 5, season 8, yeah, did it throw tons of, character development for Daenerys? Sure it did. But this episode just topped it off. It was the cream on the cake. So since the beginning of the show, it's sort of been building up the potential characters who could be king, who could end up on the Iron Throne. Daenerys is one of those characters from the very beginning, from the very first season. But for the last couple seasons, like close to the end of season 7, as well as all of season 8, it's been building Jon as the potential heir, right? He is the true heir to the throne. He is Rhaegar's son. So close to the end of season 7 and all of season 8, it's been building Jon as the rightful heir. It's been building basically like this binary between Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, that one of these two will ultimately sit on the Iron Throne because they're both Targaryens. They both have a claim to the throne. And then out of fucking nowhere, they decide, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put Bran Stark on the fucking Iron Throne. Like seriously? This guy has no claim to the Iron Throne. I fully understand that they elected him, but he has no claim to the Iron Throne. On top of that, he is the brother of, at least as far as everyone else knows, right? Everyone else thinks that he is the brother of Jon Snow, the guy who killed Daenerys Targaryen. And the man is a cripple. Like, Bran has said it himself. I live in the past. I live in the past. What that would imply is that he doesn't spend too much time thinking about the future. He doesn't spend too much time. He doesn't have a great deal of foresight because all he does is study history. Bran would be a perfect advisor, but he wouldn't be a great king because you need to constantly be looking to the future. And as far as the Raven's ability goes, he's mainly just looking at the past. Now, does knowing the past, does it help you predict the future? Absolutely it does. But being devoid of a personality, which is what Bran is, I don't think he would be a good king because he needs to make certain personal decisions. And when he's devoid of personality, like the show has kind of showed that he is, right? He has had to basically give up his identity of Bran Stark as an individual in order to become the Three-Eyed Raven. So it makes no fucking sense as to why Bran of all people would be king, aside from the fact that there has never been anything in the show, at least to my knowledge, that would indicate or even hint at the fact that, you know what, Bran is going to be the one to sit on the Iron Throne. What this reeks of is this reeks of two fucking producers who decide, you know what we want to do? We want to shock everybody. You know what we should do? We should literally do something where, what the fuck is going on here, man? Anyways, yeah, sorry, I was checking my thing. Anyway, we should do something where nobody's expecting it. Okay, look, there are two ways to be surprised. There's a good way to be surprised and there's a bad way to be surprised. And these fucking show producers, I don't even know why I'm cursing so much. These show producers literally just decided to pull something out of their ass entirely just to surprise us. That's all they did. It was just like an attempt to surprise us. And I mean, look, this season, forget the fact that last season had less than 10 episodes. This season only had 6 episodes, right? These show producers, what these guys basically said from going back a good, I don't even know how many seasons ago, they said that they have a very specific schedule in mind. They want to wrap the show up in a very specific number of episodes. So what these two idiots did is they basically tried to force the story to fit into their pre-scheduled number of episodes. So what they essentially did is they said, you know what, fuck the story. You know what, fuck trying to wrap up all loose ends. You know what, fuck trying to be consistent. We've decided that this is all we want to do. We've decided that we only want to do this many episodes. So we don't care what we have to do. We don't care if we have to end the story short. We don't care if we have to make sure that if by doing this, the story will make no sense. Because we've just decided that we're only going to have like however many episodes. So instead of saying, hey, listen, you know what, let's let the story dictate the pace, they said, we're going to let the pace dictate the story. Like 6 episodes this season, if they had even made it 8 episodes this season, or if they had just stuck to their regular 10 episodes this season, we would have had 4 more episodes, and in those 4 episodes, you could have had an actual breakdown. You could have had a real ending to the story that arguably could have pretty much satisfied everybody, but instead they're like, oh, you know what, because we only want to do this many fucking episodes, the last episode we're gonna rush it like crazy. Honestly, look, I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. Like many of you guys, I've been watching it for a long time. The problem though is that anytime you remember a show, one of the things you remember is how the show ended. And Game of Thrones was an awesome show. Season after season, it delivered great story. And then the final season, the final episode on top of that, they rushed, they basically spoiled, they ruined it. And by doing so, anytime anyone remembers Game of Thrones, what they're gonna fucking remember is this bullshit ending that made no fucking sense. Jon Snow gets sent to the north. Sansa becomes queen. That's the other thing. I mean, Sansa's saying, hey, we want independence, right? Sansa was saying the North wants independence. Well, if the North is going to claim independence, why is it that any of the other kingdoms, why don't they just say, hey, we want independence too? Forget having a king. We all want to be kings. Why not just go back to pre-Aegon Targaryen? But only Sansa stands up and goes, oh, hey, only the North, we want independence. And all the other kings and rulers of Westeros are like, you know what, this is an opportunity where we can all actually get independence. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to essentially just go along with it. We'll let Sansa have her way. We'll all bow to this cripple. It is so fucking stupid. I mean, the episode is just so fucking stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever. It ruined the entire show for me. I'm not gonna lie, because now whenever I remember Game of Thrones, I'm gonna remember how it ended. Since the very fucking first season, people were like, this was a huge point of excitement for everybody. Who's gonna end up on the Iron Throne? Oh, you know who's gonna end up on the Iron Throne? Bran Stark. And I would be cool with it if Bran ended up on the Iron Throne, so long as there was some sort of basis for him being on the Iron Throne, so long as there was some sort of reason, some sort of hint as the episode went by that, hey, Bran is going to be the guy. All really Bran has been built up to be is, at best, a great advisor. Also, not to mention the fact that he was basically built up to be the one who controls Drogon and ends up killing Daenerys the dragon because he was able to control animals. The fact that he did not do so means that there was absolutely no fucking reason why Bran, story-wise going, would be able to control animals. Because if he wasn't going to use that power to fucking kill the dragons, then there was no fucking reason why he even had that power, which is what the story was building him up to be. Stupid fucking episode. Let's continue. That's what I thought he was going to end up being. But no, not at all, not at all. They basically changed it for what? For shock value, I suppose. Honestly, what this has done is it has inspired me to actually go and read the books of Game of Thrones. Because unlike the stupid-ass producers who are trying to speed up the story to conform to their schedule, the actual creator of the show, he doesn't have to fit that same schedule. He's taking his time. And even though he might take long as hell to finish writing each of the books, I actually want to know how the story was supposed to end. I want to know how the creator of the story ends the story, because that's the actual ending. And the ending that these two asshats fucking gave to it, honestly, like, these guys should be like, guys, they did 7 seasons. 7 seasons, they did great. Like, you can complain about some episodes in the season, but 7 seasons, they did amazing work. And the 8th and final season, the season that would end the series, the season that they could say, you know what, we put our all into it, and the fact is we walked away putting our all into it, full 10 episodes or a full however many episodes to wrap up the story, and we're satisfied. Instead, they literally threw away years of work just because they wanted to wrap this up quickly. They just didn't want to work on Game of Thrones anymore. They just didn't want to do it. So in the process, they threw away years and years, almost a decade's worth of work, just because they didn't feel like doing it anymore. Talk about ruining your own legacy. Talk about ruining your own, like, it's not technically their story, but it's their adaptation of Game of Thrones, right? The story that we're seeing on HBO is their own specific adaptation of Game of Thrones, because they did end up changing things here and there. And talk about just ruining the story that you've been working on for years and years, just because you wanted to move on, I suppose. I don't know. Game of Thrones season 8 episode 6 was a fucking disappointment. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, if you guys really enjoyed the episode, let me know why. Maybe there are certain things about the story that I missed. Maybe there was lots of clues that Bran was gonna end up on the Iron Throne. I don't fucking think there was, but maybe there was. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like the episode? Did you not? And if you did, please let me know why, because I would love to know why anyone enjoyed that episode. Randumpz signing out.